afternoon here from downtown Indianapolis. We've got a guy on the air that I've known for a considerable amount of time. And I've known him when he worked in ministry, also when you served years of law enforcement. And we actually have, finally, and I'm amazed that it has taken this long, we have managed to find someone who is interested in being on the ground, working to make schools and churches and other places that are dealing with threats of violence and legal nonsense. He's working to make them safer. Rick, thanks for coming on with us today.
Offering folks.
So first of all, tell me just a little bit, what is this organization called, and give us a quick brief summary of what it is that you guys do.
Yeah, sure. So my company is called Black Diamond Consulting, and our primary offering is a security team setup and training for churches. We do other things, and I'll talk about schools here in just a second. But the primary thing we do is we train church security teams for a variety of threats. So if a church doesn't have a team, we can help them select and train and organize and implement a security team. If they do have a team, no matter what stage that team is currently in, we can take that team to the next level. So that's kind of what we specialize in. What we do for schools is we will do training on for example, a teacher in-service day. Or we'll just go in on a day that the school asks, and we'll train on topics like active shooter. We'll do an active shooter training along with a scenario. We'll talk to them about various issues that are unique to that particular school. When we go into a church, we're talking about, and a lot of people too, Tony, I want to kind of back up here. A lot of people, when they think about church security, they may have some congregants that are armed and those kind of things. And I'm not against that. I'm very pro-gun person. But that isn't always the answer to other things, because there are other things that threaten the well-being of churches, such as lawsuits, medical emergencies, missing child, severe weather, shelter in place. And so we teach on all that. Our training, and the other thing we're introducing is an online training. You can do the entire core. A church security team could get entirely trained online, and we're launching that July 1st. But we offer right now even the in-person training, but it's about 14 hours of training to get started, and we cover a variety of different classes. As a matter of fact, it's kind of laid out on our website what courses we offer.
So why offer these other kinds of trainings? I mean, I obviously everyone can see the value in mass shooter and those kinds of situations, but you were talking about missing child situations and medical emergencies and things that, I don't know, maybe a lot of individuals at small schools and churches would just think, well, we got this. I mean, when this crisis comes, we'll just handle it. We'll call who we need to. And they kind of go with that mindset. Why do you think it's so crucial you offer extra kinds of trainings like those?
So we'll take medical emergencies. That's kind of the first. We kick off. We do a couple of courses on the philosophy of church security. But the first actual course that we do in our training is medical emergency. So let's say, for example, somebody has a heart attack in the middle of a service. There's some decisions that need made immediately. Is that person going to be moved? Is the congregation going to be evacuated from the auditorium? Who's going to call 911? Who's going to get the AED? Who's going to get the first aid kit? Who's going to ask pertinent medical questions to the family to try to render aid to this particular person that's down? And then a variety of other things that, if people don't think of this, if you're going to hook up an AED, you're going to have to expose the chest. And so do you have a privacy barrier? If you have a team that's trained in all this, they work very smoothly and systematically. This person does this and this person does that.
You mean it's not so simple as just saying 1, 2 clear and rubbing them together and slapping them on the chest?
That is fun. That's not exactly how it goes down. So we do train in all of those kind of things.
So one of the other things that I have to ask is, we talk about armed congregations and individuals, and I carry, and a lot of other friends that I have do as well, and we've taken some personal courses, but that's not enough. It isn't enough just to have a bunch of people in the room just who are armed, often who are looking the other way. Especially if it's in the middle of a service, and given the rise of threats, and people don't realize how many pastors a week, how many small Christian schools and Jewish schools a week get calls and like very vague threats or emails and suggestions they might come and do something. So why is there such a crucial need to give these kinds of active shooter trainings? And then, hit that first, and then we'll kind of move on to the next stuff, because this is a question I think a lot of people really need answered.
Yeah. So one of the issues with having people, even if you're trained with firearms, how do you respond to a particular incident? And now there have been incidents where armed congregants have stopped an active shooter threat.
Absolutely.
An active shooter is the worst case scenario that could ever happen any place, a school, a church. And so any kind of action that will stop that threat is a good action. But what we try to train people to think about is responding so swiftly and so systematically that that active shooter doesn't even get a shot off. And we want people to be alert. We want them to be cognizant of who's coming into their building. And here's the other thing. We start this as well. We talk about having balance in a security team. So we want to balance things like vigilance with ministry, access with with our different programs we have at church. So we want people to come to church. We don't want it to look like you're trying to take a flight, and the TSA frisks you when you walk through the door of the church.
But that's good.
Yeah, right. So you don't want metal detectors at church. Most people don't. But we do want a team that's aware, that they're alert, that they're looking for very particular things. Active shooters have a profile. I don't know if I should say that, but having been in law enforcement, of course, we never profiled in law enforcement, but they do have, studies have shown that they act a certain way. And so we train the teams to look for that kind of behavior.
Yeah, that kind of, I noticed this when I was in education, that individuals who are suffering from certain kinds of mental instabilities, who are going through a certain kind of stress, they would manifest certain behaviors. And there was always these tells that you would look for. And especially as a teacher, I looked for situations regarding domestic violence and sexual abuse. And we'll get to that in a second, because I want to talk about also some of the training that you provide that keeps schools and churches free from accusations of sexual assault and things that are plaguing a lot of institutions right now. Sure. And we'll get to that. But before that, here we're on with Rick Moore of Black Diamond Consulting. I want to ask a little bit, why get into this? So, I've known you for a long time, but others obviously have not. Why have you taken it upon yourself and the others in your organization to get into attempting to train churches, schools, other small organizations in this way?
Sure. So I have about 25 years of ministry experience, and in various levels. I was an executive director for a nonprofit. I was a youth pastor for a number of years. That's when we met. I was a senior pastor. I did some itinerant evangelism work. So I've got about 25 years of ministry experience. And then coupled with that, I served on a volunteer fire department. And then I've been in law enforcement, and that emergency service work is about 8 years of law enforcement and or fire department work with as certified first responder. And
so you've seen all sides of this.
Right, both sides, and that's what makes us unique. So myself, along with our other instructors, have a lot of experience in ministry and emergency services, and that's what makes us unique. So I'm not coming in from a cop-only perspective. I'm coming in, and I'm not coming in from a ministry-only perspective. I don't think either one of those will give you, and that's kind of why we say we have a balanced approach to church and school safety and security,
right,
is because of our background in doing that. So I think that I have the ability, the knowledge, the skill, and the life experience to bring something to the table and help churches maintain a secure environment.
So really quickly here before we hop off, I want to ask, what other kinds of services do you guys provide? So what are the other kinds of trainings that you guys provide churches and small schools and those kinds of things, other than just the active shooter training and the medical emergencies?
So our security team training setup is like I said, there's 14 hours. You can see a list of all the classes that we offer on our website, and then there's a brief course description under each one. So when someone has us come and set up their team or train their existing team, then we go through all of those training courses. And then in addition to that, we do train and certify in first aid, CPR, and AED use. We do have a standalone active shooter course. We will come to conferences or seminars and speak. And we actually are getting ready to have some things that are available online as well. for sales, like for example, how people can acquire AEDs, first aid kits, personal aid kits for security teams that have tourniquets, stop the bleed kits, that kind of thing. We're going to offer that as well. So we do have a lot of those services available as well. And then we do staff training. So a lot of the things we would train a security team for, there's staff and volunteers that need to know things like answering the phone if you get a bomb threat, or opening up a suspicious package, or liability issues. An interesting thing, I don't have the number in front of me, but the number of the amount of financial dollars that is taken from a church from within is in the billions of dollars, and it will surpass the amount that churches collectively have given to world missions. And so we do address the misappropriation of funds in our training as well.
Rick Moore, you can find his services as well as his organization over at myblackdiamond.net. Again, that's myblackdiamond.net. And there's going to be more to follow because, again, I think that the most important thing, at least in today's day and age, is actually getting on the boots on the ground and working with churches, working with schools, other small organizations to make sure that not just their security, but also how they address legal, public relations drama when things go bad, and things do go bad, making sure that you're prepared for this kind of stuff. Rick, thanks for hopping on.
Yep.